hello, everybody. Hello, Robin. Hello, Matthias. Hello, you nice guys there in the background. Greetings from Germany.
A warm welcome, everybody, to my Book of Lights.
Thank you.
Welcome to the guests here on the couch, and a warm welcome to you. And especially a very well welcome to Robin Foy.
Yes.
Physical researcher and investigator of physical mediumship and phenomena. Robin was also the core member of the Skull experiment. It took place in the 90s, mainly in their home in UK village Skull. The report of the Skull experiment you can see yourself on YouTube. At the end of the conversation, again, I will put more information about that. So how are you, Robin, today?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you very much. And we're working away hard here in Spain, getting involved more and more with the foundation. And we're sort of expanding a little bit. We're getting a few new members now, which is good. Kai, of course, is our vice president, and it's lovely to have you, Kai. Thank you for that. And of course, we also have another group in Germany who are doing very well with their phenomena these days, and that is Beate and Uwe Siegert from the Cologne area, and they stayed with us about 3 weeks ago. We had 10 days with them and 10 sittings, 5 sittings using our format and 5 sittings using their format. And we were all totally shattered by the end of that. But they were very good sittings.
Wonderful. And I noticed you shared a lot of new information also in the newsletter. And I will put it, if you will let me, inside the film.
Please do. The more people that share that, the better.
Absolutely. Wonderful. And of course, Matthijs de Leng, mental medium from the Netherlands, who organize seances for Kai here in our country. Happy that you are here, part of our conversation too, Matthijs. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yes. And last but not least, of course, a very welcome to Kai Muegge.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody.
Yes.
Thank you for having me, of course.
Oh, wonderful that you want to be part of it. And it's all about you, almost everything that we share in this conversation. And for those who have not seen the conversations we had before on YouTube, Kai is a famous international physical medium. The phenomena that Kai has achieved during his seances, I can tell, are incredible to witness. And I must mention it again, www.mediumship.blog. How are you today, Kai?
I am very, very good, dear Lonneke. Thank you very much. I had a wonderful guest staying here with me in Hanau, a befriended medicine man, a UVP medicine man from the Rosebud Reservation, and we both understand or approach ourselves as, in the end, both doing more or less the same, bringing society together with forgotten powers and unseen powers. And so this is always a very, very powerful and lively conversation that we have and time we do share. So I'm still energized by these last hours with my friend from the Rosebud Reservation. And so thank you very much. I'm very good and I'm happy to be here. I'm very happy to see Robin, of course, who I admire very, very much. I mean, his work was absolutely groundbreaking. I very much like to see Matthias, who I very much like. Since we work together, we have a good and strong bond. And of course, I like to see you good people there, because I believe the most of you we have met in last time close to Amsterdam, where we had our sittings. So hello to you all.
Thank you. And I know in the background is your wife, Julia. If you hear me, Julia, warm welcome to you. And on the background is also my husband. And maybe we will hear from them. They're welcome as well. And Matthijs, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you very much. Yes. Excited to speak to you again and to all of you. It's always a pleasure. So I'm happy.
So let's start with our conversation. Today I want to talk about you, the person, Kai, and his development till, let's say, how far we come today. Is that okay with you, Kai?
Oh, yes. I'm very much used to talk about these things. You're welcome. But of course, I would like to share the time we have with all the others. So maybe everybody should have his time to talk about things he's into at the moment. But I very much believe that you have scheduled that way. So let's start.
Okay. And I agree with you totally, because it's worthwhile to hear everyone, and especially also the point of view of Robin on everything we will talk about. So please, Robin and Matthijs, share your questions also on our way with the interview. And at the end of our conversation, Kai, you yourself asked if what we are doing with the cabinet in our small group here in the Netherlands. So at the end of our conversation, maybe the sitters can share some of their experiences, if you like. Okay. Kai, if I do understand it well, you come from a middle-class family. Your mother was a teacher, wasn't she? And your father a businessman, am I right?
He's a salesman. He was a salesman, yes.
Yes. And you know your grandparents well, Kai?
Yes, I know my grandparents, of course. I know them. Yes.
Not everybody.
No, you're right. You're right.
I don't know my grandparents.
Yeah, I don't know them. I did know them all from the motherly side and from the fatherly side. So we always had a very strong bond within the family until today. And every member of the family is very much integrated. And my grandmother fatherly side was very, very long the quiet chief of the family, so to speak. My grandmother Nelly, at the moment she's in a house for elderly people where they care for her. And my grandfather, fatherly side, he died around 10 years ago. He's working for a few years with our circle as well as a healer potential. When we are doing our work in regards to bring healing potentials up within people, reactivate these potentials within people. So he's...
On what age did he start to bring this healing forward?
My grandfather was an ophthalmologist. And not only that, he was an ophthalmologist and a doctor for the eyes. He has sacrificed his life for social work, for helping people, even though even though his personality was not always perceived easy to deal with, he was so very much committed in his work, and I always wanted him for our healing routines, and as a spirit guide and as a spirit helper in that regards. And after a few years of trying to achieve that, in a Northern American Indian ceremony, he actually approached me together with the grandmother of the medicine man, but that was another medicine man, that was not that guy who was here today. So Yes, so that was my grandfather, that ophthalmologist we work with today in our healing work, and on the motherly side, I also very much am thankful towards my grandparents because they have built the family house here in Hanau, and that big huge house was always the center of the Felix Circle until today. People come here and we gather here around in the environment of that house. And actually in the rooms of my parents, they always gave their rooms upstairs when we had our many guests. That, of course, had to do with the involvement of my mother, who was a founding member of the Felix Circle. So, a very powerful integration of family is and was always happening around me.
So I can say, if I listen well, that you have a happy family time, in a way, as a child.
Definitely. Yes. Until the cancer things began around my mother, but it could be much worse than it is at the moment. So we are making the best out of it.
Yeah, thank you. And did your family also go to church? Or did you yourself go to church when you were a young child?
When I was a young child, there were visits of the church, but we were no regular churchgoers. I am still a member of the Protestant church because I always believed that the social work the churches are doing are very, very important, and the social ethics of the Bible and the church are very important and necessary, because many people in my environment, they have dropped or they have exited their membership of the church. As a German citizen, you are automatically a member of either the Catholic or the Protestant church, and in the 80s or so, everybody dropped out of church because everybody believed they have enough money, and we are not happy with their
environment you were.
Yes, but I kept it, and I still keep it, but I'm not a churchgoer.
And Robin, if I may ask, your childhood was also happy?
Very, yes. I was an only child. My sister actually was stillborn. But has grown up in the spirit world, and I've had the privilege at Skull of having one sitting where I had both my mother, my father, and my sister there all at one time, all solid, and it was a very, very happy time at my birthday.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. So, and back to you, Kai. I read somewhere that you were in a way, and I don't know if I can say it like this, a kind of problem child when you was little. Remember your illnesses and things that happened around you. Do you know if there is a reason for it if you look back today, especially for the illness part?
Indeed that was the case, and crazily it started the day when I was brought back as a just born from hospital. My father had planned a firework, and it is funny because it is really a symbolic thing, because already at that day, I don't know, 4 or 5 days after my birth, I don't know how many days newborn are staying in the hospital, but it was a regular drop out of the hospital, going home with the mother, and my father had planned a firework. And already that firework was cancelled due to conditions that were happening around me. The first problems started to happen around me, and that first firework that should celebrate my birth was cancelled, and that was a little bit symbolic because everything was very much problematic and very weird. What happened to me, and then the health.
What can happen with a baby?
Yeah, when I was a baby, there were these very difficult health conditions. Nobody could explain. My mother was regularly at doctors because but by the way, today I hear from everybody who has young children are very, very much often ill and feel sick. So I cannot really estimate how very much justified that was. But one thing is clear, that my mother was so alarmed brought me regularly into the hospitals, and they monitored me, and I had to stay overnight, and I was very, very much unhappy, and was crying over the night. I was alone. I was traumatized for sure.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. And these health issues didn't stop. And when school started, they carried on to happen. And I was a very thin and a very, very gray looking child with very blonde hair, and that even strengthened that pale look of mine. I had a huge horn glasses, and when you see images of that time,
Yes,
you see a poor little boy who obviously is not finding his place even within the family, because at that time my strange voyages began that happened during the night. And
yes, frightening dreams when you were
a mixture between lucid dreaming and out of body dropping out of the body and walking through the house, not registering at the beginning that I had forgotten my body in my bed. I was alone with myself. My body was forgotten in my bed, and I was moving through the house. And interestingly, I talked to my sleeping parents, and I talked to my sleeping grandparents. I talked to a lot of personalities who were in the house at night, but I was not really reflecting at that time why these many people were in the house. And later then I learned who maybe was that one, or who maybe was this one.
Yes.
I talked about it. My parents were massively irritated by it. They additionally started to think that boy does not have only somatic, physiological issues. He starts to bring forward psychological issues as well.
And you had friends also in that kind of age, I believe. Two twins, maybe, what I read about. Two boys.
Please, Zonneglossis, please repeat. I hear you a little bit.
Okay. I have read it in about when you were about 12 years old, maybe you're younger, that you had friends, maybe from school, two boys, twins, I believe.
Exactly.
Especially became your friends, and they had very, very unusual phenomena going on in their homes. So this is something that happened to you, especially to you, to meet those boys.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that this is what I call my initiation, actually, because until my 11th year of age, I was confronted with that out-of-body experiences, and I was not so very much reflecting about it. But I had registered in the meantime that something special was going on. I had registered that I was entering a world the others were not entering. I started to write about it, and I started to write little stories about other worlds that breaking into our world.
Especially you wrote a book, didn't you, about it? About poltergeist.
Oh yes, but that was very much later.
Yes.
So that was and then that was that episode when I was 11 or nearly 12, when in the house of my best school comrades for 4 months, a very aggressive poltergeist outbreak took place. And additionally to my experiences I already had, and I already had that expanded idea of reality others didn't have, because others hadn't these lucid dreaming and out-of-body experiences. So with that background, I plunged into
Unbelievable.
witnessing
Yes.
these massive phenomena. And the thing was, at that time, because that was a well-known photographer, and they had a huge premises, and we boys, we were 4. Every free time we were there, every weekends anyway, and during the week, additionally, evenings and afternoons. So over the 4 months, I saw so many episodes, and I was overnighting there. I was sleeping there many nights during the poltergeist period.
If I was there by my friends and something would happen, furniture moves, and so that you heard, I believe, in that home.
For example, but
again. But you did.
The mimicry noises were the most, what affected me the most. The volume of sounds that were produced from the ceiling and from that little area between the apartment and the ceiling that was directly, the roof that was directly over that apartment. There was only a little space where you could put luggage or something you could put there. And hours-long noises came from that area, from the roof, loud hammering noises were sounding, and then over a few days after that had started, the noises moved more and more into the apartment, and especially at doors, it sounded as if little persons were jumping at doors from the outside. We were inside a room, and from outside, as if a little boy is jumping at the door and wants to break through, or scratching noises, sounding as if somebody wanted to frighten us by making really gruesome scratching noises. And at the end of...
Kai, may I ask? You see, they are also... If I had a friend like this, and I was there one night, and everybody could hear the sounds, don't they? It was not for me, not everyone. So I would think it over if I want to go there again. But you just went again to the boys' home, no?
Yeah, I mean, the family was very much affected, and what's the right word in English? Anyway, I was more fired up because I did not let fear take over.
It's unbelievable.
Why ever? And at that time, I already felt like a 16 or 17-year-old. I felt very mature. I had all that knowledge in my background, and I approached it. I observed the social environment. I recognized what was going on, in which order. I already thought about in how far maybe are the parents somehow involved here? Are they making a theater for us boys? What is going on here? And very immediately afterwards, or even in the last days of that spook, I already had the first books about parapsychology and paraphysics on my desk. And that became the possession of my life. paraphysics, experimental paraphysics, physical seances, of course, the experimental environment in which we can trigger the so-called supernatural, and getting in contact with these power potentials that oftentimes reveal themselves as spirits towards us.
Yes.
And that dealing with spirits is something that is as old as mankind. So the spirit world, or the supernatural potential, is revealing itself towards us as spirits, and these spirits, they are responsible for the metaphysical development of our human psyche and of our understanding of the world, besides the philosophies then later of the West, the Geisteswissenschaften, so to speak. That was it. That was the beginning. And 3 years later, I had my first circle. I had my first experimental circle.
Yes. Robin, did you experience this kind of things as a child yourself?
Not really. No, my parents were always joking about certain places being haunted as we passed them. And I was very, very interested as a child in anything psychic, and particularly in something psychic that's physical. Although my mother never developed it, she could have been a natural clairvoyant medium because she had feelings that turned out to be very prophetic and worked out, they were evidential. As a child, I actually attended a church. I was in the choir. And until I actually left home, I was still part of the church there. There was a time when I was actually in the forces where I was considering very, very seriously becoming a vicar, because I knew that I wanted to help people somehow, and that was the only way that I thought that I would be able to do so. But I never really had any psychic adventures until I went into the forces. And then I started to hear clairaudiently voices telling me different things. For instance, on one occasion, I was told by a lady's voice coming straight out of midair that I could heal with my hands. And I got very excited about this and started sort of running out, sticking my hands onto everybody that I could find. And it was a long time until I realized, there was a sort of, you had to sort of do a bit of an apprenticeship in this type of thing. And I also heard that same lady's voice telling me on one occasion that I would marry a particular woman. And that came to pass as well. But it was only when I started, I must have been in my early 30s, when I really started to get involved in psychic matters. And funnily enough, I went straight into a physical circle, which was unbelievable because I hadn't even heard about clairvoyance and clairaudience, clairsentience. But I did come across an advert in a local paper. I was living in the Leicester area of the UK at that time. And the advert basically said anybody interested in psychic research, get in touch, which I did. And I then went along to be interviewed by this guy who was running a physical circle. And it all started there because this chap was good friends with Leslie Flint, who was a very, very famous physical medium, independent voice. And every few months he would take his circle along to sit with Leslie. So that's how I started, and on the first occasion I went to sit with Leslie and listen to about 18 spirit voices speaking out of midair and conversing with us, with Leslie joining into the conversation on occasions. I was totally knocked out by it, and as I walked out of that place at the end of that sitting, I knew exactly what I was going to do for the rest of my life. I was going to be heavily involved in physical phenomena. And of course, it's now coming up to 46 years that I've been involved in it.
Yes, it's amazing. Thank you. And Matthijs, do you have experiences in your youth about this kind of adventures?
Actually, I do. It was intense when I was very young, and objects moving in my chamber. I heard footsteps when you were lying in bed, and you hear those footsteps approaching you. I must admit, I've been scared a lot in those days. Yes, and all kinds of light. What age? I believe it started about 9, something like that, 8 or 9, and it lasted until about 20.
Oh, really? So long?
Yeah, and afterward now it doesn't happen anymore. Occasionally, I hear my name. When I'm in bed, and I hear this voice very directly besides my ear, and I hear them calling my name. But that's it, really, at the moment.
That's beautiful too. And Kai, thank you, Matthijs. Kai, I want to go. I'm still about when you were 13 years old in my mind, and then I read that you. I think through your parents, there was a physician, Dr. Werner Ewald.
Oh, yes.
When you were 13 years old.
Yes, that's true.
Yes, and in that period, you started to meditate and are interested in shamanic practices and so on. And what was the contribute from this physician? This doctor.
Yeah, he was a close friend of the family, and my parents saw my interests go weirder and weirder, and they asked Werner, because they believed he was the first psychotherapist in our county who was allowed to use hypnosis as a therapy. And they believed that they could steer my interests or control my interests and not to go too wild when they bring me together with Werner. And Werner gave me I carried on to have with him to have a very scientific approach to altered states of consciousness, hypnosis, the techniques of hypnosis, the role within society, the development, the anthropological background of it. Actually, that was another step. That's true. Mm-hmm.
And in that time, you also developed, I don't know if I can say it that way, or create entities, also animals that were with you, that surrounded you, that you took notice of. Do I say it correctly?
Please repeat, Monica.
In that time, I believe you also created or witnessed or noticed some entities, like also animals and let's say aliens, kind of entities who you were aware of that was surrounding you. Am I right?
Yeah, no, not really. I mean, there was a parallel interest that was going on, because at that time, and that went hand in hand with my new knowledges of now founded knowledges about hypnosis. At that time was the abduction craze, the alien abduction craze, and I had a very powerful experience when I was first confronted with that issue, somehow believing from the start that something must have gone around me in that regard as well. If it maybe had happened during my out-of-body experiences when I was a a little child, I had the typical scars of an abducted, even though I couldn't remember it consciously, and I tried to dig it out with hypnosis, but I could not dig it out. There is no sign, no hint of memory. But this was a parallel, and it is a justified parallel issue when we talk about spirits, when we talk about altered consciousness, when we talk about the spirit realms and the spirit worlds. We shall not forget that the spirit realms are more than the spirit realm of the deceased. This is, of course, a section within the spirit realms, and out there are many, many more entities existing. And when you are very active in trance work, sooner or later, I guess, as long as you consider them as probably existent out there, they probably will contact you, or you will have a contact or an experience within trance with extraterrestrial or interdimensional entities, if you wish so.
Yes, yes. You speak about entities because they can have different kinds of origins. They can be animals, they can be maybe other kind of creatures or beings, that's better.
Exactly.
And was it in that time, if I go back to this physician, that you also learned this special way of breathing? You called it holotropic?
Oh no, that happened, that was much later. That was during my study times.
Yes, when you became, in the time that you became social worker, in that time.
Exactly.
Because you're a social worker, it's in the family, isn't it? Social work.
Yeah, in that regard, yes, I always had a strong social. I wanted to engage myself into social work, and I worked as a kindergartner, as an old man's carer. I worked as a nurse, and then after that all, I wanted to professionalize it and started to study. But during the study time, I totally shifted and became then so very much active as a very engaged worker in the area of software that was at these times young startup companies, a very young team, and that very much fired me up, and so I did it for years and I studied it, but then I worked in these startup companies like Sierra Cocktail and Vivendi Universal Interactive and so forth.
Yes, very down to earth.
Yes.
And but as a social worker, you also, I believe, helped other families who has problems with this poltergeist thing that go on with children, or am I right? You wanted to help them?
At these times, I advertised and searched for people who I could be of help,
Yes.
because I witnessed the helplessness of that family and the stigmatization that occurs to families who go through this. Is very present and very much troubling, and I wanted to be of help, and I advertised, do you have problems at home? Do you have disturbances in your environment and you do not know how you could talk about it, or you have nobody you can talk about it with? Take this number, phone this number, and we can work something out. And actually, I started to do therapeutical work with a lot of people then, and we do it until today. Actually, we never stopped it until today. We over the Basel Psi Verein, for example, the Basel Psi Association, regularly people are overhanded to us who have either energetical problem or these kind of disturbances in the inside, or in the outside, or it starts in the inside and operates itself into the outside, or it starts in the outside and operates itself into the inside. So obviously these problems are very much often, not always, but very much often holistical, so to speak. It starts in the inner or in the outer, but in the end it tries to overtake the whole perception range. In the end, these are disturbances within the perception of people. That is very interesting, because we do not have concepts within psychiatry, for example, that do explain what happens to these people. They are not dissociated. That means they are not telling you that they had dinner with President Obama yesterday evening or something like that. They are totally clear, but they have very, very weird, specified experiences. And the question is, where's that coming from? Are here actually spiritual entities involved? It oftentimes seems as if spiritual entities are involved. People feel tormented, but they do not only feel tormented. They say, I do not only feel tormented, I feel as if an entity is wanting to torment me. And these are very complicated constellations, and you have to approach every client differently. You cannot take it from the one, put it onto the other. It's very, very complicated, very, very individual, but enormously interesting.
Absolutely interesting, and these awful, fearful movies that I don't look are going all around this kind of phenomenon that, of course, are not as they are in real time. But what is the main thing that you can point at when it stops? Because it's all the time, not all the time, but most of the time by young, let's say in the, how you say this in English, puberteit, Matthijs, how you say that? In the adolescence, in that kind of age. Yeah, after that it stops. I believe after this you get an adult, let's say.
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Excuse me, I don't know why, but I hear you difficult, whatever.
Question. Is there something what is going to, what is in disorder in the minds of the children or the persons who experience this kind of unasked poltergeist effects around them?
Okay, the poltergeist, I mean, modern parapsychology has found out through meta-analysis and so forth that what poltergeist concerns, the classical poltergeist, that 80%, around 80% are triggered by so-called focus persons. That means it is triggered in the here and now by tensions within the social group in which it is happening, usually within families. Usually these focus persons are adolescents between 9 and 13 years of age, more girls than boys. And the rest, 20% of poltergeist cases, can have their origins from deceased origins, or black magic is involved. People experimented with black magic and have, in the aftermath, problems with it. So basically 80% is a lot. Interestingly, among these 20%, also there are the spook houses, so poltergeists who are clinging at specific locations like castles or specific paths. In the history of the poltergeist, we have locations like paths in specific woods who seemed to be, or graveyards, who were troubled by poltergeist phenomena. But modern psychology counted in a big meta study, actually done here in Germany, 80%. I know that other studies are not talking of about 80%. They are more talking about 60, 70%. Poltergeist is triggered by adolescents or persons. But the people I'm talking about today, these are more people who have what we call occupations or possessions. When you do not know the word occupation, that means these people wake up someday, and usually we have an undisturbed feeling of ourselves. We perceive ourselves when we do not have illnesses or sicknesses. We perceive ourselves as round and closed and filled up. We feel centered, we feel good, we feel warm. These people wake up someday and start to have specific disturbances. Like, for example, they wake up and feel that there is an itching, for example, going on at the shoulder, but coming with that, not itching is not the right, a pain in the shoulder, but there's not only the pain coming. With the pain, there is coming the clear knowledge that this pain is triggered or is originating from the will of an entity. Usually they first start and look around in their environment, and many believe they are attacked by a psychic they had worked with, and that psychic now turned mad on them and start to torment them. Others from the beginning on search for the originator of the disturbance, of the pain, in spiritual areas and identify entities. And they say, I feel there is an entity that is wanting that I go through that pain. And they know how crazy that sounds, and they have no idea where that idea is coming from, but they wake up like the abducted one morning woke up and had in their memory, I went through this gruesome abduction scenario, and they cannot wipe that memory out anymore out of their memory. The same way these occupied people wake up. I had one patient who said, I had a male one living in me, and every time when I was walking, I felt the big belly of the male one moving around my slim body. Such kind of weird experiences, and they do not get rid of it. Psychiatry is not able to help them.
No.
Sides of medicate them, of course.
But Kai, it's very fearful and frightening what you're telling. But not if it's so. But if those people where you're talking about, if I understand you well, are acknowledging at first that it's there and that they have to go through this or to that, and that there is an entity that wants them to experience that. So they're creating, in a way, maybe.
Yeah, this is the $1 million question. In how far is it thinkable that entities of a sort exist that might like to torment you in a way that these people are experiencing it? This answer I do not want to answer. I have my opinion. More important for me is to find ways to help these people. So yeah, this is what I am engaged in for many, many years.
But I think we're already talking almost an hour, I think, maybe. I don't know. Not too long for you. We can continue a little more.
Yeah, I'm fine.
You're fine? Robin, you're fine? Matthijs?
For a while, yes, yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
So
Yeah.
this is the frightening stuff, I must say, but I mention it and we're talking about it because it was a part of your development from child till now. So what I do heard that what I just mentioned ago, that there is an acknowledging that an entity like that exists and that someone believes in that his experience has to happen. And maybe there is a key for the people who want to give that a chance, who have problems with it. It's amazing that you still wasn't afraid yourself and choose for them, let's say, a mission to bring those worlds together through your seances, by example. And that the fear was gone and that you work truly with the spirit world as well. All is spirit, of course. But this is amazing. And then you formed a group in that period, I think. And your first group, you started with the cabinet to work in the seances. And what age, how old was you then?
Yeah, 15, but we weren't starting with the cabinet. But my seances are positive powerhouses. Yeah, and you know, if there is a fight in the universe in which the good and the bad, light and darkness, is hate and love is fighting against, then my seances, at least since I am doing it professionally, if you can call it so, I wanted to have my seances big, powerful, positive environments in which people can have powerful, positive experiences that expands them and that can expand their understanding of the world. And somewhere within that understanding of the world, and this is actually simply a consciousness broadening and consciousness enhancement, somewhere in this enhancement lies also the knowledge that things like I have just described do sometimes happen.
Yes. And I can say so that it is very positive energy that we experience in your seances, and as another seances that I've experienced as well. And Robin, I think for you in the seances, it's all about this positive love and light that we are sharing and experiencing, aren't we?
It most certainly is. And I mean, I find that when you start to get phenomena in a circle, then everybody in that room feels the positive power of love and the strength of spirit. And you come out of there much more refreshed than you've gone in on occasions.
Yes, that's what we... And you experience it also, Matthijs?
I'm sorry? If
you experience also the love and the light that we share during seances, as we do in Sky, the seances too?
Yes, well, that's... yeah, that's the case. I always think that if spirit is close, those conditions are very much monitored, and the fuel for such conditions is love. And I always experience it, and it's, for me, it's very much important to acknowledge that, because if it's not there, then I won't be there either.
Yeah. Same. Same for all of us, aren't we? Maybe it's good to continue next time, and that we stop here, because there is a lot more to tell about your experience from that age on, Kai. If you want to share it with us, of course, we would love to.
Yeah, but of course there are other very important stories as well. Like, for example, the most amazing mediums that have worked, because of course you can read these things about my youth, and I don't want to bore nobody with my stories about a very personal development. And you know, mediumistic development is always very, very personal. So only the framework, or the framework can maybe be an example for others. The rest is very, very individual. It is a little bit like looking at photos from the holidays of somebody else sitting in their living room and have to look for hours at photos of other ones of today.
I do agree till a certain point, because if you do share the things that you want to share yourself, I believe it's more than the outside of a photograph. It's more open contact for the listener who truly wants to listen. And it's like some persons, there are persons who have more empathy towards others, and others will stay at the outside. So if you listen as well, you can bring, like you shared also tonight with us, you share a lot of knowledge, and that truly touches us who are listening. So I think your experiences for what you want to share are very worthwhile to hear.
I will carry on to answer your questions, dear Lonneke, that's for sure.
That's wonderful. And so thank you for now, because otherwise it will be maybe too much. And I would love, Kaya, you wanted to know, we will start with the cabinet in our group, Mystica. And we have some, not all the members are here, but we have some members here. We're now for 2 years together. And we started to have some phenomena. And maybe you want to hear some of it from the sitters?
Always.
Yes. So please, who wants to express? Tell me if you hear it, because a little distance. You know what?
Yeah, okay. Hi, can you hear me?
Hey, good to see you.
Okay, good evening. Yeah. What we experience during the seances are light phenomena. So,
yeah, that's better. Come a little bit closer.
Yeah.
Yes, we experience during our seances light phenomena in the form of spotlights, colors we see. Also we see energies. When Lonneke is speaking in trance, I can see the energy of it. What have we more? We have knocks that we hear in the ceiling, on the doors. What do we have more? Messages, personal messages, also by Lonneke, when she's in trance. And then we meet several identities. No, but there are cold wind we are experience. But also we have entities from other worlds. And they are bizarre shaped in wings or in birds, yeah. What do we have more?
Playing children?
Well, yeah, children are always are there during the seances.
What?
Like what?
Indian.
An Indian man, yeah. Yeah, we have also an entity which calls themselves the man with no name. It's a beautiful name. And most of they speak to us with philosophic messages. And that's in a nutshell what we experience. They touch us by the arms or our legs or heads.
How one's waist was?
And they also how do you say it?
That's
our heads, but they said it.
So then we can
they give physical experiences.
Yeah, I really need to say I envy you a little bit, because this is the most amazing time when a group goes into a new phase of the development now with the cabinet. And the cabinet for sure will be a new energy supplier. And I very much believe you will have a lot more powerful experiences in the seance room. And I loved these times in these many circles in which I were, when development was actually so palpable for everybody, and everybody was so involved and was so engaged, committed and fired up by what was going on. So I really love what you are telling, and I hope you have a most wonderful time together.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And it is truly true that what you said, or maybe Robin said, that after the seance, sometimes we had a busy day, but after the seances, we are feeling most of the time happy and
Yes.
we are having energy for the week. It's, more energy. Isn't it so?
Yes. Sleeping late.
Yes, yeah, I'm sleeping late, yes, but it's so.
Yeah.
Is there something else you would like to share or to ask Kai?
I want to ask Kaya.
He's still here.
Yeah, I'm
And
still
Robin,
here.
of course.
Kai, I saw on your Facebook account
Yes.
a picture of a full mineralization
Yes.
with, what is the substance?
Ectoplasm.
Ectoplasm.
Yes.
Yeah, I found it astounding.
Yes, it's
Indeed,
mad
isn't it?
going on.
Yeah.
And everybody must look at the Felix Circle on
Yeah,
Facebook.
it's quite fantastic. Yeah.
It's amazing what you achieve.
Absolutely, it is. It is. And we are speechless ourselves. We had a long phase of stagnation, actually, in that regards, because you maybe know that we have specific seances for the development of full form materialization, and we had a few months of true stagnation, and this was a very welcomed step forward. And of course, the people loved it, and I loved that we had the photographs. Because many times the photographing work does not work. but this time it does, and it photographed these most fascinating things. So I'm so thankful, and of course I'm thankful that we can share it with the others.
I would love you to speak about it more and more, because we are, have a kind of hunger to understand more and to hear what you have to share with us. But thank you so much for today, Kai. And last question, I can't help it, it's coming over my lips, is by these photographs, because we are talking about it. We saw also the wonderful thing that you did with the matches, of course, that you moved the matches by, let's say, telekinese, yes, your powers. There was a sunlight. There was, I think, infrared light, but it looked like white light. What kind of light did you use for the camera?
That we did it in a regular kitchen light, but used the infrared camera purposefully. But honestly, we had no other camera there, so we had to use the infrared camera. But that was good, because you know the infrared camera is showing everything in false colors, and it oftentimes reveals things you are not expecting it to reveal it. So I was hoping maybe we see energies, and we had recordings where tiny little explosions were happening under the finger.
Okay, I haven't seen them yet.
It's in the first segment that I have published, in the first video segment. So it was an infrared camera used in a lighted condition.
Okay, because it looks like if you are sitting in the dark.
I know, but
how does that come? Why does it look that way?
Oh, I cannot tell you, but every video is clearly captured. There's text telling it is happening. This is in lighted conditions.
Conditions, okay.
And everybody who was there will confirm that.
Yes, okay. And by example, if you want, you could also use a night camera in darkness and to do the same, don't you? It's possible.
Yeah, besides that you wouldn't see what is going on. Only the camera operator would see what is going on.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Is there some last words you want to share with us, Matthijs?
No, I just want to thank all of you. It was very interesting to learn about how spirit can manifest itself through different kinds of mediumship with different people, but all with the same message of light and hope. And that is such a marvelous knowing that they bring that forward. So it was very, very good to listen to this. Thank you both very much.
Absolutely, the same for me, and I very much love that we have here these different generations. We have Robin the Icon, who started it all. Actually, you started it all. Without your work, we wouldn't sit here.
Well, I think the Noah's Ark Society certainly stopped physical mediumship from disappearing altogether. That was in 1990.
Indeed, and your books were so important, specifically in pursuit of physical mediumship. Of course, it's such an important book, and your personal knowledge, what you shared over the years personally, of course, within the film, The Afterlife Experiments, for example. So, and that we, over the generations, can carry on this so very much important work, and we will give it further as well. But for me, it is important also that we also find an outlook for a mediumship for the future that also accepts other forms of mediumistic results, because we know that the original traditional English school is not really accepting these different results. I mean, you also had these problems with the traditional English scene, because you go with blue.
Particularly in the beginning there, in that spiritualists themselves would not understand and would not accept that it could be done in different ways. And that could be, very, very off-putting. There was a group in the 1980s who, with a medium, Rita Gould in Leicester. And Rita Gould never knew it herself, but she was not an ectoplasmic-based medium. She was an energy-based medium. And the results that she was getting were very close to some of the things that we experienced a decade later in Skull. But unfortunately, there were a whole number of people within spiritualism that thought she was fraudulent because she was not getting ectoplasm. And it led to her actually receiving death threats, which is very, very sad. And she disappeared off the scene because of that. And that lady was the forerunner of what we were doing. So her work was very important and unfortunately ended quite sadly. So we hope that in the future there are going to be plenty more youngsters who really sort of come forward and develop their physical mediumship so that we can have a complete line that's going from me, the old guy, right down to the youngsters.
Exactly. Wonderful. And this new kind of way of thinking, let's say a new paradigma in a way, how you say it in English? Good word. Paradigm? A new paradigm of looking at physical and energy-based mediumship and what's all between. Would be lovely to spend a whole conversation on, I believe.
Well, there's a lot of fascinating facts within that are different from the way that Kai, for instance, works. It's very interesting to compare the two ways of working, which are like chalk and cheese sometimes.
Oh.
Totally different. But when they actually get the similar results.
Absolutely. And when we talk about these differences, which in the end show only different parts of the same coin, different sides of the same coin, let me quickly tell you how Rita Gould was dealing with her materializations. We know from many mediums, even those that came with the Noah's Ark Society, they had materializations, but they very much often moved through the room and interacted with the people in darkness. So Rita Gould was looking for a way to make these entities more visible, more perceivable for the sitter. So she created for her different guides cloth jackets usually, or big jackets, so to speak. And these jackets had light pins on them, and the darkness entities came and put on these jackets and moved through the room and became so very, very much visible.
It's like a fairy tale to me, but I love you that you shared it. And
of course.
It will keep me thinking. I will look it up, and maybe I can read something about her.
Yeah, there's not so very much to find about her, but if you
unfortunately,
find a little bit,
And indeed, Robin Foy, your books are read very well by us here, and my daughter bought one and is reading it, and she's so amazed and excited about everything you wrote. So really, the generation will. It's called past generations, I believe.
Well, my latest book, Witnessing the Impossible, is actually being translated into German at the moment by Beate Siegert, which she did without even asking me, and I think she's nearly halfway through the book now.
It's great.
Very promising work. This is, of course, amazing. But mediumistically, they are also very important work, aren't they? I had read very interesting reports about their work.
I think they're going to be mediums of the future, yes.
Yeah.
We have a lot
I hope so.
About. That's for sure.
Because we need mediums that dare to work. Out of my school, there is a medium coming and working so successfully, powerful ectoplasmic work. For years they do a photographic documentation, and I was never allowed to show the images. In the meantime, I am allowed to show the images, but you need to promise me that you won't never use the image I will show you now in any degree. This guy is a high-ranked bank manager. He started to sit in physical circles in his late 50s. And when he was 60, his trances start to become very, very resultful, let's say. And I will show you one or two images out of the documentation with them. This, for example,
wow.
So,
ectoplasm from both eyes.
Amazing.
Wow, yeah.
Is I think the man that you spoke earlier in the last conversation about, is it that man who didn't want to mention his name?
Yes.
Okay.
Ectoplasm from nose and
Boy.
Wonderful.
strong light phenomena are going on, but of course this is only the physical phenomena. He has strong spirit guides who talk very, very wisely. An Indian guide who is a powerful guide. And the last image, this is an observer photographed from behind, and an ectoplasmic hand is moving towards him from the cabinet.
Yes.
Wow. It's wonderful that he is sitting with you and that you're teaching this man.
Yes, but what is not unfortunate is that he's so, and I don't know how the spirit world deals with it, because when you are given such an access, usually the spirits like that you share it with a lot of others because they have to say something. These young mediums, okay, he's not young, he's so paranoid because of his job. But I see it even with young mediums. They don't dare to go public.
So pitiful, I think, or maybe that's not the correct word, but I feel it's, what is jammer? Is dat jammer nowadays?
Missed opportunity.
Yes, you hear my husband? He's still in our video. It's a missed opportunity. And I hope that one day he will wake up
Indeed.
and understand this. Because it is about the mission from bringing those worlds together and to share it. And that we can bring it more open. You can have these photographs taken. People can visit your seances if they like. In Robin in Spain, people can go there, and because I spoke to
center will actually be hopefully helping to develop new mediums in Spain, and the facilities there will be absolutely superb for physical. And the first thing we do when we manage to get the centre is to do up the little barn at the rear of the centre, which is going to have a personalised seance room in there. So we make sure that room's absolutely spot on, and everything there hopefully is going to be great fun for everyone when we get it going.
And I hope so much. Like I spoke to, I don't know the man, but I got some correspondence with him, who doesn't want to believe and want to do everything to destroy all the evidence that we have towards in his conversations and the things that he bring out, even on it is on the media or otherwise. And I don't think we need to defend ourselves with these mediumships, but please, everyone who is looking and who asking, is this true? Is it really true what Ask is showing, Kai is showing us, and what Robin is telling us, and what Matthijs is telling us? Please go yourself to visit the seances with love in your heart and expect nothing, but just be there with a good harmony feeling that there can be something. And I believe that's better than criticism, before you don't experience. Do you?
Yeah, indeed, that's absolutely right.
Fully agree. Yeah.
I hope so. So we share the love and the light and say goodbye for this time. And with all my heart.
Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Yeah, bye-bye,
See you next
everyone.
time.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Okay. Till next time.
Okay, thanks.